There's nothing quite like becoming a parent to teach you that the more you try to force your kids into doing something they don't like, the more resistance you'll encounter along the way. Well, I'm here to tell you that what's true for my children and yours is true for adults and prospects alike. Senior housing prospects are dealing with loss of control, loss of identity. Any attempt by you to minimize the very real fears will be met with some level of resistance. I have seen situations where prospects have been overpowered and forced to make a decision. They weren't given the basic freedom to choose to act in their own behalf. We can and should do better. How? By leaning into resistance. I call that going with the skid. Here's an example of how that works. I'm visiting with a prospect who has lived in her home for 60 years, and she's looking outside at the garden and expresses a desire, I wish things could just simply stay the same. Here's how I respond. I tell her, I can't begin to imagine how much you treasure the memories you created with your family in this home. Let me ask you, are you sure you can't stay here? Have you ever thought about hiring someone to help occasionally so you can stay here? You'll note there's no magic to the conversation. It's a simple acknowledgement of a prospect's very real fears. There's a mutual understanding of what it would mean for her to leave her home, and I'm assisting her as she navigates that ambivalence and ultimately moves herself closer to the right decision. To paint a strong contrast, imagine if I had responded like a typical salesperson. We have lots of social groups at our community. You don't have to be lonely anymore. We even have a gardening club. The difference is obvious. In one scenario, the counselor is confident and compassionate. They trust themselves and they trust the prospect, and they genuinely want the right outcome. The other counselor places their trust in what the community can offer, hoping in some way it can make up for half a century worth of memories. This is why going with the skid of your prospect's resistance, turning into it, following them, will propel you both forward on your journey towards navigating change. To be continued.